Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to News and Views with me, Zahira Bam Ismail. We are now moving into one of everyone's favorite segments, Fired Up with Ashraf Gangreker from Africa Muslim Agency. Ashraf, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the studios.
Wa alaikum salam, Zahira, and to the listenership and viewerships of Salam Media. It's always great to be with you. So you say fired up. Today I might just actually get fired because I want to speak about real men. Are you well, Zahira?
Real men. Now that's a topic for discussion. I'm listening and I'm all ears. The platform's yours.
Yeah, no, sure. So let me give the disclaimer quickly. These are not the views necessarily of Salam Media or Zahir Abam Ismail, right? This is just Ashraf venting and ranting a little bit. Zahira, I'll be honest with you, and I'm happy to be engaged as always, right? Today is the 17th day of Ramadan, the Battle of Badr. Lest we
Mhm.
forget, men of faith. The Prophet sits in a tent in the night and says, "Oh Allah, if you don't grant us victory, your name and your religion will not spread on this earth, etc." And men of faith, man, people stood up and got the job done. And it just made me think, because this has been a bit of a bugbear for me, and I'd really like to pick your brain, Zaira, that this has been a bugbear for me because I worry as to what generation of men are we producing. And I mean this across the board, but particularly young men. And I think one of the issues for me is this, and I have zero, and let me say this, I don't believe I'm misogynistic in any way, but it started with this whole notion of the girl child. Take the girl child to school, for
Mm.
example. There was a campaign with regards to that and girl empowerment, and that's all perfectly fine because they have this huge gap in years to catch up on. But what we didn't do, and maybe what was an unforeseen circumstance, in my opinion, was that it led to the emasculation, particularly of boys and men. So that suddenly it became, let's put the focus on the girl child, and if a boy and his behavior, though, which is determined invariably by societal expectations and norms and Islamic injunctions, I acknowledge that completely. But when we don't nurture that, then I'm saying to you, we create a generation or a group of weak men. Now, this is obviously, I'm using this in general terms. Now, everybody's not like that. And I'm saying to you, we must be careful. And I'll give some examples in a short while. When we are speaking to particularly young boys, and I'm involved in schooling, and it's just an extreme passion of me to say to young men, stand up and be counted in a system of values with integrity and respect. Because I fear the following: we have seen, in my opinion, a huge, giant leaps forward when it comes to the empowerment of women, and it's been awesome. It must be like that. And then I speak to you, Zaira. I know the CWF, K Women's Forum. I've been to Gauteng and been to the Roshni area, Val, the Muslim Women's Forum, etc. I'm looking for a men's forum. I'm looking for a group of men who get together and then they say, well, great, let's discuss what can we do. The biggest problem is an easy English saying that comes to mind. If we want something to get done, give it to a woman. Men will have a meeting first and then postpone and say, we need to relook the agenda. And I'm saying there is something wrong then with the sense of leadership. For Allah instructs us, I'm not here to differentiate between the genders. Allah, though, says to us in the Holy Quran that, take care of yourself and protect you and yourself from the fire of Jahannam. Prophet teaches us that we are all shepherds and we're in charge of the flock, and the shepherd is there to provide direction, to take the sheep to the grazing lands in terms of nurturing, protectiveness, etc. Shepherd protects the sheep from the wolves. I'm saying to myself and my brothers, I'm saying, how many of us are doing that? And the understanding of respecting the spouse or the females around us. Now, in terms of where we are at, I'm saying, men, raise your hand. Who of you are prepared in your high powered works corporate life to say, I need to take paternity leave? I need to be at home to help my wife with, and I need to bond with my child. We are perhaps not going to do that because we'll be seen to be sissies. That's not quite for us. That's not a masculine thing to do. And when we say to our son particularly, I paid a lot of money for this education. And what the hell are you up to? Sorry, bad word. And what are you up to? And I've invested in you. And there is a sense of the man, the male child, needs to reproduce in terms of the expectations of the family. And I think one of the worst things we say, why can't you be like your sister? But when this child it displays an emotion and
Mm.
cries, etc., or helps his mom in the kitchen, it's so easy to be labeled, you're a sissy, you like this, you like that. And then we miss the point because we think that, the expectation of society that men must be strong, that they must not be emotional. We forget that, in fact, men are emotional, that we have feelings and they are just so suppressed. And then the last point I want to make, because I don't want to take up too much of the time, I'd like to engage you, Zaira, is the issue of economic inequality. I speak to the children in my school quite openly. Zaira, again, I want to stress very clearly, I have no issue. In fact, I'm an advocate for female empowerment, particularly young people, in terms of education and in terms of their growth and development. But if we stop and think, it's perhaps easier for a young girl to get into university, and I get the gender equity that we must have. So when we look at the success, and they should be, and why not, that females are having, my fear, because I've seen this, is that young boys now take a back step.
Mm.
And if we suppress their expression, then quite honestly, they would lead themselves into a darker space that will find its expression in vices. Now, the biggest things, for example, is we live in an era where young ladies, successful women, are perhaps earning more money than a spouse. And unless that issue is handled carefully, this emasculation, taking away the masculinity of the man, that you're supposed to be the head of the household. When we say to a man, you're not providing enough, Tom, Dick, and Harry's going overseas, what's his name, buying a new car. You can't even do DIY around the house. You can't fix the latches or anything. I'm saying to us, be very, very careful, because the converse, and we say here in the holy month of Ramadan, what is the prophetic example? At this part in the day, sometimes before Dhuhr and after Dhuhr, the Messenger ﷺ would go to his wives and go and be in their homes. We wax lyrical as to he would mend his own sandals, and fix his clothes. And he would sweep the home. Sometimes he'd make up the bed. But he'd be there in real person, real man, being there, present. Sometimes for us, we want to be saying, we want to focus on the sunnahs of, the length of the beard, which is important, and all the other things, the use of the miswak, it's important. But I'm saying to you, and I said it last week, let us not be Sayyidina Abu Bakr in the marketplace and in the mosque, and then behave like Abu Jahl in our homes. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, the best of you are the best to their wives and to the family, and I am the best. So, Zahira, I'm going to conclude with homework. I want for every person, including you, Zahira, and the guys in the studio, you think of 2 or 3 important men around you, in your family, in your workspace, in your social circle, whatever. Just 3. Let's not, give too much homework. It's 10 days of Ramadan's coming. I'll be busy. And you think, how do I speak to them? What is the tone of my voice? Do I, in a sense, put them down? Do I affect their feelings? Or do I deal with them with respect and dignity? And do I acknowledge what they feel? Now, why is this important, Zaira? Because we're going to produce, if we don't focus on it, we're going to produce a generation of young men who will grow up with a lack of respect, unable to express their fears and their feelings, and quite honestly, they take that into their married homes as well. Real men need to stand up with integrity, with values and respect. Thank you. Are you still there?
Ashraf, I am still here and I wish we had so much more time because that alone is an entire panel discussion. I think it's a discussion and a topic that has to be raised, that should have been raised, and definitely is required on many levels and at many platforms. I think you mentioned so much of what it means to be a real man, and people have this misconstrued idea of what it means to be a man, to be harsh and to be difficult. And you mentioned so nicely the prophetic example that we have of being a man and the gentleness that also comes with it, but also being able to be protective of your family, to be nurturing of your family, to be loving of your family. I think you've touched on so many topics also of women in various circumstances. There are many single headed households where women have had to step up and take on this role that shouldn't be theirs, and that's the truth of it, and look after their families and be with their families, and are getting tougher and harder because there's no other way at this point to survive. And I'm not talking about thriving, I'm talking about surviving. And I always say that when you have a real man, then you allow a woman to be in her feminine energy and you allow her to be who she is without feeling the need that I have to overcompensate for that. And when you see a woman in her true feminine energy, know that she's with a real man. And I think, we can have these discussions at length in terms of what we are raising and what we're teaching our children and our boys and our girls at that level, in terms of what it means to own their identities. And I often say to women, our femininity comes with a gentleness, and we should never be afraid of that. And it's something that we should embrace because I don't see it as a weakness. I actually see that as a strength. And in the same line, we have to encourage our men to stand up, to protect their families, to look after their families. And I think how you summarized it at the end was perfectly summarized in terms of the amount of respect that we need to afford each other. And I remember many years back, I was always told women need to be loved because they're gentle souls, and men need to be respected. And if we manage to find the balance between the two, I'm not saying that there's no respect on both parts. Respect is bilateral, it needs to be there for both parties. But if you give the gentleness, if you give the respect, the love gently flows as well. And when the love flows, the respect also flows. So I think you've got a balance of that combination. We kind of have something we could be working with.
Awesome. I think that's just brilliant. I love that whole notion of, embracing the gentleness and, with the feminine part. And so I, again, this doesn't need to be anti something. I just honestly have this notion that, as men, we, men of my sort of my era, my age, we look at ourselves and say, what are we raising around us? And so this issue of, gender-based violence, for me as Muslims, let's
Mm.
not put our head in our sand. It happens. So when people, would, as I said, Abu Bakr outside and go home and beat their wives, there's something amiss. That is not right. That is not normal. That is not the prophetic example. So in this holy month, drawing closer to Allah, consciousness of Allah is heightened. How then can our character be with that? That we would abuse another human being, a creation of Allah. Real men would not do that.
Alhamdulillah. Ashraf, I think a discussion that was definitely needed to be had, and I hope that you and I can take this up on another platform
Unfortunately.
very soon. These voices need to be heard, those statements need to be said, and the discussions need to be opened. Ashraf Gangreker from Africa Muslim Agency, as always, a pleasure sharing the platform with you. Shukran for joining me on air today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I know you'll be off on travel. Allah take you safely, bless you and your
Amen.
family, give you health and strength, and return you to us with Umrah Maqbool and an even bigger inspiration, Zaira. I don't think you fully understand what you mean to the community at large as an example of what a feminine person with kindness and gentleness is able to achieve and do. Thank you so much. It was great speaking to you. Go well. Hope to speak to you soon.
Shukran, Ashraf, for your du'as always. It's greatly appreciated. Ameen to all of it. But I have to tell you, we are only who we are because of the strength of the du'as of people around us. It's as simple as that. And I'm truly blessed to have people like you in my life who are always making du'a for me. And I'm so appreciative of that. I truly feel very blessed. Jazakallah and assalamu alaikum, Ashraf.
Salam, Rahmatullah. Take care.
To all our viewers and our listeners right here on News and Views at Salam Media, it's been an absolute pleasure sharing the past few days with you. I've learned so much. I've managed to chat to the most remarkable people. And I think the insight that we've got on many situations, from local to Palestinian situations, has been heartbreaking, has been insightful, has been knowledgeable, and has given us an impetus to be able to do more, because once you know more, you have to do more. Inshallah, we can take it forward as we go along with us. I think the last segments have always been inspiring with the Africa Muslim Agency team, and it's something I learn from on a daily basis. I thank you for sharing your mornings with me. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on this platform, and I wish you all the best for the rest of our blessed month of Ramadan. Until we meet again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.